restoring Western Europe. Western Europe, which is a shit show, needs restoration. And I hope they don't need me. I hope that the white man revolts and saves his own nation. People are happy with Keir Starmer resigning, but the job's not finished. You shouldn't be happy with small victories. He's resigning, cool. Who's next? Oh, come to find out, the guy who's after him is just as bad, if not worse. So, and I don't mean to take away from the small victories. You should be happy that at the very least, the government was willing to, resign someone that's in power. But the job's still not finished. Your country is still not yours. You are still being led by people who have no vested interest in you. So you're not a free nation yet. But look at France. Again, all of Western Europe. All of it is terrible. They've all been invaded, and they haven't done anything about it. Now the men are getting angry. The men are mad at what's happened to their nation. And all of this stems from, by the way, that the white man listens to their women. If the white man didn't listen to their women, they would not be in this predicament for a majority of the part. See, because the white people tend to have much more empathy for others than any other race. I've noticed this. Whenever I'm talking with white people, or even some of my white friends, they tend to care more about people they don't even know for no other reason than it's just within them. It's like a part of their genetics to be caring. I don't know. And so you add on being a woman to this factor, and it just gets horrible. So, these white women are saying, oh, we should let in these third worlders into our country because they're just seeking a better life. Not knowing that if you import the third world, you become the third world, right? Your once high trust society gets destroyed and is no longer high trust. Whenever you let these people into your nation, it's like when Rome let in the barbarians. You never let in the barbarians. Never let them in. Because once they're in, you either have to kill them or you have to do some harsh things, right? That's going to be that the little hats are going to take advantage of and make you look bad on the press. But this is why you should never let in the barbarians. But their empathy towards them is what drives them wanting to help these people. But the white man not being able to tell his woman no and shut the fuck up, well, the white man allows these third worlders into his country, and again, what happens? They destroy his nation. And so now what you're seeing is the boomers, the older generations who allowed this to happen, they're now getting old. But who has to live with the consequences of the old people's actions? The young. The young white men, the young white women are dealing with their actions, or are dealing with the actions of their grandparents. And they're not happy. And they will get rid of the barbarians one way or another. But this all stemmed from the fact that the boomer white men couldn't tell their wives no. And it's very surprising to me because back then there was a culture of, if your wife wasn't making dinner, you slapped the shit out of her. And I'm Hispanic, so it's very much in our culture. You know why there's this whole trope of like toxic Latinas or spicy Latinas? It's because you motherfuckers don't know how to handle one. Okay? When she starts yelling at you, you smack the shit out of her. Okay? It's because she's become westernized. But when she starts yelling at you, you smack the shit out of her. What? If she tries to kill you, you kill her. What? Like, this is how us Hispanics, us Latinos deal with the Latinas. If she's yelling you, cursing you out of your name, you slap her. She tries to elevate to like trying to punch you and or hurt you, you slap her. If she tries to kill you, then you kill her. That's how we deal with them. But because the white guys are, messing with Latinas, they don't have that culture, right? Because, well, not anymore. They used to hit their women, right? Well, at least the Italians did. Now, I don't know about like everyone else. I don't know about like the British and the French and the German. But regardless, not having that aspect in the relationship is what makes these Latinas go crazy, because you never put them in their place. The Hispanic men put them in their place. And it's so much a part of our culture that the young Hispanic people, but specifically the women, want to take it out of us, right? They're tired. In Hispanic, we in Spanish, excuse me, not Hispanic. In Spanish, we have a term, machismo, which basically just means misogynist. So my views, a lot of young Hispanics would view me as a machismo, as a misogynist. But that's just not the case. I just think like an older Hispanic male from back in the day. Men lead, women follow. If your woman's getting out of line, you smack her. It's that simple. Um, uh, and that makes me look bad. But listen to what I'm advocating for. If she's stepping out of line, yelling at you, embarrassing you, tarnishing you as a man, you smack her. You don't fucking you don't brawl your significant other. You don't just start throwing haymakers. You smack them, because a smack is a way of snapping sense into someone without like just straight up, fully causing like destructive force onto their face. You know, so when you smack your wife, it's a pain, but it's not an unbearable pain. Again, it's a way of like, hey, you're embarrassing me. You're stepping out of line. Get back in place. It's like spanking a child, right? You spank your child when they do something bad or they misbehave. It's the same thing with women. If your woman's out of line, she's misbehaving, you smack the shit out of her. It's that simple. But again, the white man hasn't done this for a while, and what happened? His woman, the white woman, took control, and she's put him in a place where now they have to deal with her actions. Again, this is going back to the boomer generation. And now what we're seeing is a divide between young people, specifically young men and women. The young men, surprise, surprise, are leaning more toward the right, more conservative. They want to go back to a traditional time where it was the nuclear family. And women, to the surprise of no one, are still going further and further left. They're still trying to care for these small groups that don't matter. They want to care for these fucking. They want to care for no reason, right? Other than the fact that they have empathy. And by the way, they're not really empathetic. It's just the way, since people don't like them, it makes them feel good that they're sticking up for a class that people don't like. Because if you ask a woman or excuse me, how women will ignore you if you're an ugly man, right? They'll have no sympathy for your life and how you've lived it if you're ugly. Right? And I'm referencing hypergamy, okay? If you don't know what I was talking about. So they're not really the empathetic sex. They're more sympathetic in the sense that, they feel sorry for you because they can never truly relate, right? So there's not really empathy there. They haven't experienced what you've experienced. They haven't been through what you've been through. They just feel sympathy for you. And going back to the topic at hand, the topic of the video, which is restoring Western Europe as emperor, and this is going to be within the first year, once I establish myself as emperor and I fix and stabilize the nation, I want to then help the rest of the Europeans, the rest of the white people. Because again, I, as a non-white, care about the white race. I don't like this concept that if you're not a part of the group, you can't care for the group. Wherever white people have gone, they've improved the lives of all the people they've interacted with and or colonized. Look, did they do bad shit? Yeah. No one's questioning that. No one's questioning the slaughter and everything else. But everyone did those kinds of things at one point in time. Look past that and see all the improvements that the white man brought to these nations. Do you believe if Spain never contacted Mexico, and of course, America never invaded Mexico for whatever reason and taken their land, do you believe they would have the internet today? Do you believe they would have had electricity today? No. Okay, they would have still been they still would have been sacrificing motherfuckers to the sun god, okay? So, again, look past the shit that the white man has done and look at all the benefits they've brought to the land. I know some white, again, white people and their sympathy, some white sympathizers will say, "Oh, well, what about Africa? Look at how they just drained the Africa of its resources." Well, look, Africa has a shit ton of resources. That's true. I think it's the richest continent. But these fucking blacks didn't know they were on a fucking gold mine. And that's just not to the reference of the gold there, but like all of like how rich, resource dense Africa is. They didn't know the value of all that shit. They were living in mud huts, okay? And they still do. In some places, they still live in mud huts, right? So you can't be mad at the white man for seeing all this profit potential, taking it, right, because they colonized, and then be mad like, "Oh, well, this is why the blacks can't get ahead. It's because all the resources are being taken out of Africa." It's like, you know how you can stop that? I'm pretty sure someone was trying to do that before, the West killed them. And more specifically, the Jews. The Jews killed them. I was referencing Gaddafi, by the way. But regardless, there has been a lot of outside influence, okay? But again, that's mainly because of the Jews, okay? The white man did colonize, the white man did take resources, but whenever the black people try to save their nations and their continent, it's the Jews who get involved and kill them and undermine their their achievements, right? It's the same thing with Fidel Castro, right? Really goated fucking person. But again, who wanted him dead? The Jews, okay? So, but that's not the white man, okay? And there has to be that distinction for all the non-whites and even the whites, because again, some of the whites are retarded lefty liberals who don't know that their differences, okay? You have the whites, then you have the Jews. The Jews have the skin color of the whites, but they're not white. They're Jews. They're their own ethnic group, okay? They have their own ethnic identifiers in their genes, okay? Like there's distinctions between them. They share the same skin tone as whites, but they are not white. And by the way, Jews are all races. There are black Jews, there's Hispanic Jews, there's Asian Jews, there's African Jews, okay? The Jews are fucking everywhere, okay? They're all the races. But specifically, the ones that have the money and the power are usually the white Jews. So that's why when these fucking people realize, or they confuse the Jews with the white man because they share the white man's skin, but they have very oftentimes noticeable markers, just visually speaking. If you look at their nose, a good way to tell if someone's a Jew is by looking at their nose. Another good way of looking is if their hair is really curly. Most white people don't have curly hair. They usually just have very straight hair. So if a motherfucker has curls and has a slightly larger nose, it's probably a fucking Jew. Okay? If they don't have those markers, right? It's going to be a little bit harder to tell, but you just question them. What do you think about Jesus Christ? Because again, Jews don't believe in the divinity of Christ. So you just ask these Jews what they think of Christ. If they say they don't like him, or this white person with not very clear identifiable markers, if they don't like Jesus, then obviously it's a Jew. If they say they like Jesus, and then now you have to actually interrogate them. So what do you know about Jesus? Right? Because it's one thing to say, "Oh, okay, I like Jesus." Okay, well, what do you know about him? Right? Because these Jews, what they'll try to do is lie to you and say, "Yeah, I like Jesus, right? I like Jesus." But then you ask them, "Well, what do you like about him? What do you know about him?" And then they have nothing. So that's another way of confirming it. In fact, if you didn't know this, look this up, fact check me. The Jews hate Jesus so much that they don't even say his name. They don't even say Jesus Christ. They say JC. They reduce him to his initials to not say his name. They don't like him that much. They say JC. And this is like the higher up. So like the rabbis will say JC. Now maybe even like the average, low tier little hats instead of like that big ass hat they wear when they become rabbis. um but yeah, they say JC, and in, I believe it's private schools, to be fair, but still private schools. In Israel, they hate Jesus so much that they change math to avoid any kind of resemblance to the cross. And what I'm referencing is they don't use the addition sign, okay? The simple plus, they don't use that because it looks too much like a cross. So they use their plus sign, and again, this is in some private schools in Israel, not all of them. What they do use is a line and then the bottom part. But they don't include the top part because it looks too much like a cross. So that's their plus sign. That's how much they don't like Jesus, by the way. They change math, right? Or the math symbols, and then they also don't even say his name, they say his initials. So anyways, regardless, going back to Western Europe, if I do become emperor and once I stabilize America, I want to save Europe, again, particularly Western Europe, because I would have the strongest military under my wing, under my supervision. I'd pull up to Ireland, in a bunch of U.S. destroyers, and I'd be like, "So you're gonna give the people of Ireland their freedoms back, and all of you who are in power will step down, and Ireland will have an emperor. My ultimate goal is to save the Western world and install a bunch of emperors. Okay, I want to bring back, empires, right? Where men can look up and see their leaders and be proud of their leaders, right? I don't dislike America's republic. I think it was good at a time, but even the founding fathers knew it only works if you fight to keep it a republic. It will only work if it stays a republic. And what happened? It didn't stay a republic. What happened? It became a democracy. So so again, we don't have the country we had at foundation. The founding was to have a republic. Only men could vote. And then what happened? Then we gave a right to vote. Then we gave women the right to vote. So it's like we've just been downhill for a long time. For a long time. So yeah, that's my dream ultimately, is not only to become emperor of America, but to have emperors across the world. It's just a more efficient system in my opinion, right? And to be fair, when I save them, when I go over to Western Europe, and our destroyers and our fighter jets are in the air. We're ready to land on their beaches like it's Normandy. The people don't have to establish an emperor. But it's my beliefs that the Gen Z men will want someone with ultimate authority, will want someone with final say. It's just the most efficient system. If the emperor decrees something illegal, it's now illegal. There's nothing else to decide. There's nothing else to say. There's no more people to weigh in their opinion. What's done is done. So I believe the Gen Z men will also want emperors for their nations. I could be wrong, and if they want to keep their systems in place how it is, except put in young people, so all the old people get removed from power, and then all their parties remain, but it's just young people in those seats, that's fine as well. I'm just giving these Western countries an opportunity to actually improve the lives of the young people and have people who will actually represent them and care for the average citizen instead of lining their pockets with money, doing backdoor deals, betraying their nation. I consider a lot of modern politicians traitors to their own nations. So I want to give at least these people an opportunity to have real representatives. If they don't want an emperor, fine with me. You don't want that lifestyle? Cool. I understand. But I will give you an opportunity to save yourself or at least have fair representation. But I am going to use America's might to help them out a little bit, right? So in Ireland, we're going to get rid of the blacks. In the UK, we're going to get rid of the Muslims and the blacks. In France, we're going to get rid of the Muslims and the blacks. So it's essentially going to be another crusade. Okay? Now, I am a Catholic, and the only person who can call for crusades is the Pope. He's the only person who could call for a crusade. Here's the thing. I'm willing to get excommunicated from the church if it means saving these Western countries. Okay? Because it's my belief that the church has been infiltrated, okay, including the Catholic Church, all churches, they've been infiltrated by the Jews. And it's what allows these Jews to get away with what they're doing. I think the current Pope has condemned Israel's actions for the fact that in Gaza, if you didn't know, in Gaza, there was a bunch of old, very, very old churches and very, very old Christian communities. And Israel, the IDF, has been destroying these places. I believe the Pope came out and condemned their actions, but the Pope did nothing in terms of response using measurable force for the slaughter and the destruction of Christian sites. And in my opinion, that's wrong. A Pope should be willing to defend all Christians, regardless of denomination, and should not allow the slaughter and the unaliving of Christians without there being a response. And his response was a strongly worded letter. Israel, bad Israel, not good Israel. The fuck is that? What is that? They get to kill our brothers and sisters and all you gotta say is bad. Don't do that again, Israel. What? So yeah, I like the Catholic Church. Again, I like their teachings, and so I'm a Catholic. But I do not like how the recent popes have been, okay? For the most part, they're good, They're pretty good popes. But the previous pope, before Pope Leo, was saying how we should be more accepting How we should be more accepting of the gays. What? The previous pope was saying that we should be more accepting of people of different religions. So you mean we should be more accepting of heretics? People who don't believe in Christ? We should be more accepting of them? Really? So again, like, they just have horrible takes at times. And again, do you think Pope Leo's gonna call for a crusade? Fuck no. Fuck no. Even though Christian Europe is being invaded by Muslims, you think this motherfucker is gonna call for a crusade? Absolutely not. So that's why I say I'm willing to get excommunicated from the church if I become emperor, and I will have a crusade of my own. I will have a crusade of my own. We will get rid of the blacks, we will get rid of the Muslims, and we will get rid of the non-Europeans inside of Western Europe. It's that simple. Because again, it's my belief that the church has been infiltrated, all churches, and you need someone from the outside to do something about it. Now, I don't know the exact denomination of these mega pastors, right? I don't know if they're Catholics or Orthodox or Protestant or Baptist. I don't really know. Someone check for me. But whatever part of the denomination they are in, they're making their denomination look bad. But let's say, at the very least, there's one or two mega church pastors who are of the Catholic faith. Why isn't the Pope doing anything about the mega church pastors? Now again, if none of them are a representative of Catholicism, and if none of them, are of the denomination of Catholicism, fine. But why hasn't the Pope done anything? Assuming there's at least one. Why haven't they excommunicated them from the church? Why are they still allowed to preach? It's ridiculous. And another reason I say all churches have been infiltrated, it's like, how are there women pastors now? How are there pastors who say some of the most ridiculous brain dead shit that get to become pastors in the first place? Like, they say that some of these pastors, how God is gay, or how God is trans, and they're promoting the agenda, right? Or how they say God is a woman. Like, how do you even get to become a pastor in the first place? And then how are you not excommunicated immediately after that sermon? You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck, bro? The churches have been infiltrated and none of the leaders have done anything about it. So I'm just a young man, though. So my way of handling things is oftentimes going to be with violence and with force. And that tends to change with age. And as you get, less ambitious and more like, hey, maybe we don't use violence and we talk things out. And that's true. I can acknowledge that my way of dealing with things is much more immediate and with force/violence. But here's the thing. These motherfuckers haven't talked anything out. They haven't used their words and their old age to get rid of the problem that's there. Because it's still there today. So anyways, wrapping up this video, okay, I will help restore Western Europe, drive out the blacks, drive out the Muslims, get rid of women's rights, okay? Look, I'm not gonna do too much with their governments, because again, they get to represent how they represent and lead how they want to lead. Fine. But one condition, you must take away women's ability to vote. If women still have the ability to vote, I'm coming back and I'm becoming temporary emperor of your nation, okay? Because you motherfuckers can't lead. So if I leave, right, if I essentially go there with the US military, make these fucking governments step down because they don't want to face the might of the US military. I make them step down. You motherfuckers get young people to represent yourselves, and then you still let women vote. I'm coming back. I'm going to make you step down, and I'm going to become your temporary emperor. Because it's fucking retarded that you're going to let women vote when they're the ones who get you in this predicament in the first place. Look at Canada. They had who was it? Who was it before Carney? I forget. Regardless, they had a Democratic person in power before Carney, right? And who's Carney? He's a Democrat. So they were doing terrible under a Democrat, and did they at least try to like change to like see the other side? No. They still went for Carney. It's retarded. These people are retarded. So yeah, man. Just a quick touch up on the free healthcare I mentioned in my Canada video. No, we will not be paying for to get transitional surgery or to get their hormone treatments, okay? That's not going to be, again, we will have free healthcare with exceptions and with limitations, because there's some things that we the people shouldn't be paying for. So yeah, but it will be like if you get shot, that will be free. If you need cancer treatment, that will be free. If you were a burn victim and you need, cosmetic surgery, that will be free. Because, your fucking skin's probably, no offense, but disgusting. Because you were burnt. That's what will be covered by our free healthcare. Not some fucking who wants to turn his dick inside out and make it a vagina. That's not going to be covered. Not some fucking weirdo who wants to, take hormones. That's not going to be covered by the people's tax money, okay? That's not what we're wasting our tax dollars on. And it's going to be for human only. Okay, motherfuckers? So if you have a dog or a cat or any kind of animal and they need healthcare, that shit's staying that shit is staying private, alright? You motherfuckers have to pay out of pocket for your animals. Oh, man. Anyways, I care about the white race. I care about Western Europe. I will save Western Europe. God willing.